Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am Kiran Bendigeri from Grafosyss IAS. In this video, let's have a look at 7th Standard Social 5th chapter. That is, Women Change the World. In the previous chapter, we saw how women's work in the home is not recognized as work. We also read how doing household work and taking care of family members is a full-time job, and there are no specific hours at which it begins or ends. In this chapter, we will look at work outside the home and understand how some occupations are seen to be more suitable for men than for women. We will also learn about how women struggle for equality. Getting an education was and still is one way in which new opportunities were created for women. This chapter will also briefly trace the different types of efforts made by the women's movement to change the discrimination in more recent years. So in this chapter we are going to read about women's work outside the home, in short, job, and the education and opportunities created for women, right? And also women's movement to challenge the discrimination in recent years, right? So 83.6% of working women in India are engaged in agricultural work. So remember 83.6, so it is approximately same even now, 83.6. remember, these percent of working women, the total working women, are engaged in agricultural work. Their work includes planting, weeding, harvesting and threshing, right? These are the process in farming. Yet when we think of a farmer, we only think of a man, right? Fewer opportunities and rigid expectations. A lot of the children in Rosie Ma'am's class drew women as nurses and men as army officers. The reason they did this is because they feel that outside the home too, women are good at only certain jobs. For example, many people believe that women make better nurses because they are more patient and gentle. So it is kind of a stereotype that women are more patient and gentle, so they should be nurses. This is linked to women's roles within the family. Similarly, it is believed that science requires a technical mind and girls and women are not capable of dealing with technical things. So this is one more stereotype that girls and women are not capable of doing these technical stuffs. Because so many people believe in these stereotypes, many girls do not get the same support that boys do to study and train to become doctors and engineers. In most families, once girls finish school, they are encouraged by their families to see marriage as their main aim in life. So because of these stereotypes, girls are forced to marry as soon as they reached certain age. Breaking stereotypes. Engine drivers are men, but 27-year-old Lakshmi Lakra from a poor tribal family in Jharkhand has begun to change things. She is the first woman engine driver for Northern Railways. So remember, Lakshmi Lakra, she is the first engine driver for Northern Railways. Lakshmi Lakra, right? Lakshmi's parents are not literate, but they struggled and overcame many hardships to make sure their children got an education. Lakshmi studied in a government school. Even in school, Lakshmi helped with the housework and did odd jobs. She studied hard and did well, and then went on to get a diploma in electronics. She then took the railway board exam and passed it in first attempt. Lakshmi says, I love challenges, and the moment somebody says it is not for girls, I make sure I go ahead and do it. Lakshmi has had to do this several times in her life. When she wanted to take electronics, when she rode motorcycles at the Polytechnic, and when she decided to become an engine driver. She faced many challenges, and she always challenged when she always took the challenge when somebody said that this work is only for men or boys. She took the electronics, she rode motorcycles, and she decided to become an engine driver. Her philosophy is simple: as long as I am having fun with it without harming anyone, as long as I am doing well and helping my parents, why should I not lead a lifestyle of my choice? Right. Adapted from Driving Her Train by Neeta Lal, Women's Feature Service. In your experience, what are some of the other pressures that boys experience? It is important to understand that we live in a society in which all children face pressures from the world around them. Sometimes these come in the form of demands from adults. At other times, they can just be because of unfair teasing by our own friends. Boys are pressurized to think about getting a job that will pay a good salary. They are also teased and bullied if they do not behave like other boys. You may remember that in your class 6 book that you read about how boys at an early age are encouraged not to cry in front of others. So these are all pressures by society and mainly adults and also the friends on the children. Xavier was was happy with the results of class 10 board exams. Though his marks in science and maths were not high, he had done well in his favorite subjects, history and languages. When his parents saw his report card, however, they did not look pleased at all. So this is the story of one person. His results were out and he had done well, but their parents were not pleased at all. My goodness, Xavier, you have managed only 65% in maths. Your marks in physics are low too. I know, Mama, but it's okay because I don't want to take maths or science. I want to study history. Why do you want to take history? Think about your future. You have to get a good job. History will not help. It has no scope. But I don't like maths or science. Be sensible, son. Take maths and you can study computers side by side. The job market for computers is very good. So this is kind of a stereotype in the present generation, that parents only think that only science and maths students will get better job and better salary and all. But it is not actually true. Even the people who study history or commerce, they get very good job. Learning for change. Going to school is an extremely important part of your life. As more and more children enter school every year, we begin to think that it is normal for all children to go to school. Today it is difficult for us to imagine that school and learning could be as seen as out of bounds or not appropriate for some children. But in the past, the skill of reading and writing was known to only a few. Most children learned the work with their families or elders did. For girls, the situation was worse. In communities that taught sons to read and write, daughters were not allowed to learn the alphabet. Even in families where skills like pottery, weaving and craft were taught, the contribution of daughters and women was only seen as supportive. For example, in the pottery trade, women collected the mud and prepared the earth for the pots. But since they did not operate the wheel, they were not seen as potters. So we can see the gender discrimination here. In the past, very less people used to get education. Even among them, girls were not supported to study, and they were not supported or encouraged to do work also. Even if we take the example of pottery, the women were only allowed to collect the mud and prepare the earth, not to operate the wheel. So they were not looked as potters. In the 19th century, many new ideas about education and learning emerged. Schools became more common, and communities that had never learned reading and writing started sending their children to school. But there was a lot of opposition to educating girls even then. Yet many women and men made efforts to open schools for girls. Women struggled to learn to read and write. So this is the scenario of 19th century, in which new ideas about education and learning emerged. Here the children were encouraged to go to school and learn. But even then there was opposition for educating girls. Right, Ramabai 1858 to 1922 championed the cause of women's education. She never went to school but learned to read and write from her parents. She was given the title Pandita because she could read and write Sanskrit, a remarkable achievement as women then were not allowed such knowledge. She went on to set up a mission in Khedgaon near Pune in 1898, where widows and poor women were encouraged not only to become literate but to be independent. They were taught a variety of skills from carpentry to running a printing press, skills that are not usually taught to girls even today. The printing press can be seen in the picture on the top left corner. Ramabai's mission is still active today. So there is a picture in textbook which I haven't copied here. So this is the story of Ramabai. She was in 1858 to 1922. She was a great personality. She learnt reading and writing from her parents. She learnt Sanskrit. She was given the title Pandita. She went on a mission to encourage widows and poor women to be literate and also to be independent, and they were taught to do all the things which men usually did, like carpentry, printing press, etc. And Ramabai's mission is still active today. Learning to read and write led some women to question the situation of women in society. They wrote stories, letters, and autobiographies describing their own experiences of inequality. In their writings, they also imagined new ways of thinking and living for both men and women. Let us read about the experience of Rash Sundari Devi. Right, she is one more great personality. She was there during 1800 to 1890, who was born in West Bengal. Remember Rash Sundari, right? She was in West Bengal some 200 years ago. At the age of 60, she wrote her autobiography in Bangla. Her book titled Amar Jeevan. Amar means my, Jeevan means life, is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Rash Sundari Devi was a housewife from a rich landlord's family. At that time, it was believed that if a woman learned to read and write, she would bring bad luck to her husband and become a widow. Despite this, she taught herself how to read and write in secret, well after her marriage. So this was the belief during that time, in which they believed that if a woman learn to read and write, then it will bring bad luck to her husband and she will become a widow. Right, her book is Amar Jeevan. I would start working at dawn, and I would still be at it until well beyond midnight. I had no rest in between. I was only 14 years old at that time. I came to nurture a great longing. I would learn to read, and I would read a religious manuscript. I was unlucky. In those days women were not educated. Later I began to resent my own thoughts. What is wrong with me? Women do not read. How will I do it? Then I had a dream. I was reading the manuscript of Chaitanya Bhagavat, the life of a saint. Later in the day, as I sat cooking in the kitchen, I heard my husband say to my eldest son, Bipin, I have left my Chaitanya Bhagavat here. When I ask for it, bring it in. He left the book there and went away. When the book had been taken inside, I secretly took out a page and hid it carefully. It was a job hiding it, for nobody must find it in my hands. My eldest son was practicing his alphabets at that time. I hid one of them as well. At times I went over that, trying to match letters from that page with the letters that I remembered. I also tried to match the words with those that I would hear in the course of my days. With tremendous care and effort, and over a long period of time, I learned how to read. So this is the story of Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain and her dreams about Ladyland. So she has read about how her life was, right? How she secretly learnt to read, and how she got the book and all, right? Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain was born into a rich family who owned a lot of land. Though she knew how to read and write Urdu, she was stopped from learning Bangla and English. In those days, English was seen as a language that would expose girls to new ideas, which people thought were not correct for them. So in those days, people thought English was not good for women, because they will get new ideas and they will be exposed which are not correct for them. Therefore it was mostly boys who were taught English. Rokeya learnt to read and write Bangla and English with the support of her elder brother and an elder sister. She went on to become a writer. She wrote a remarkable story titled Sultana's Dream in 1905 to practice her English skills when she was merely 25 years old. So she wrote a remarkable story while she was practicing English at the age of 25. That is Sultana's Dream. This story imagined a woman called Sultana who reaches a place called Ladyland. In Ladyland is a place where women had the freedom to study, work and create inventions like controlling rain from the clouds and flying air cars. In this Ladyland, the men had been sent into seclusion, their aggressive guns and other weapons of war defeated by the brain power of women. As Sultana travels in Ladyland with sister Sarah, she awakes to realize that she was only dreaming. Right. So this is the story of Sultana's Dream. It's a fictional story. As you see, Rokeya Sakhawat Hossain was dreaming of women flying planes and cars even before girls were being allowed to go to school. This was her dream, obviously. This was the way in which education and learning had changed Rokeya's own life. Rokeya did not stop at getting education just for herself. Her education gave her the power not only to dream and write, but also to do more, to help other girls go to school and to build their own dreams. In 1910, she started a school for girls in Kolkata, and to this day the school is still functioning. So she has started a school in Kolkata for girls, and it is functioning till now. After learning the alphabet, Rashsundara Devi was able to read the Chaitanya Bhagavat, right? Through her own writing, she also gave the world an opportunity to read about women's lives in those days. Rajsundari Devi wrote about her everyday life experience in details. There were days when she did not have a moment's rest, no time even to sit down and eat. So this is again the story of Rajsundari Devi, how she struggled to read and write in those days. Schooling and education today. Today, both boys and girls attend school in large numbers. Yet, as we will see, there still remain differences between the education of boys and girls. India has a census every 10 years. Remember, census every 10 years. This is the important point. Right, census every 10 years, which counts the whole population of the country. It also gathers detailed information about the people living in India, their age, schooling, what work they do, and so on. These are the kind of details collected during the census. We use this information to measure many things like the number of literate people and the ratio of men and women. According to the 1961 census, about 40% of all boys and men, that is 7 years old and above, were literate, that is they could at least write their names. Remember, 7 years old and above were literate. That is 40% of all, right? Compared to just 15% of all girls and women. 40% boys and men were literate, but in girls and women only 15%. In the most recent census of 2001, these figures have grown to 76% for boys and men and 54% for girls and women in 2001. So there has been a huge change. At present it has changed furthermore. So this is a good change, right? This means that the proportion of both men and women who are now able to read and have at least some amount of schooling has increased. But as you can also see, the percentage of the male group is still higher than the female group. The gap has not gone away, right? There is still a gap, but it is slowly decreasing. Unlike Rajsundari Devi and Ruqayya Hossain, who were not allowed to learn to read and write, large numbers of girls attend school in India today. Despite this, there continue to be many girls who have who leave school for reasons of poverty, inadequate schooling facilities, and discrimination. So even now there are many girls who leave school for different reasons like poverty, inadequate facilities in the school, and discrimination, right? Providing equal schooling facilities to children from all communities and class backgrounds, and particularly girls, continues to be a challenge in India. So it is still a challenge to give education to all the girls and all. Here is a table that shows the percentage of girls and boys who leave schools from different social groups. Scheduled caste is the official term for Dalit. Dalit is broken once, and scheduled tribe is the official term for Adivasi. So remember these terms. Scheduled caste, this is for Dalit. Scheduled tribe for Adivasi people. So this is a table which is given in the book, that how many boys and how many SC boys, how many ST boys, girls, SC girls, ST girls are in primary school. So let's take one row in which we can see that it is the stats given, right? At which level of education do you see the highest percentage of children living? So from this table we can see that the percentage of children living and all. Why do you think that the percentage of Adivasi girls and boys leaving school is higher than that of any other group? So we can see the ST boys or ST girls, their numbers are less, and right, and why they are leaving, we are going to study about. You have probably noticed in the above table that SC and ST girls leave school at a rate that is higher than the category all girls. All girls is that other girls and all. This means that girls who are from Dalit and Adivasi backgrounds are less likely to remain in school. The 2001 census also found that Muslim girls are less likely than Dalit and Adivasi girls to complete primary school. So again, compared to Dalit and Adivasi girls, Muslim girls are less likely to continue the school education. While a Muslim girl is likely to stay in school for around 3 years, girls from other communities spend around 4 years in school. Right. There are several reasons why children from Dalit, Adivasi and Muslim communities leave school. In many parts of the country, especially in rural and poor areas, there may not even be proper schools nor teachers who teach on a regular basis. So Dalits and Adivasis and Muslims, they who live in rural or poor areas, don't have proper schools or teachers on a regular basis, right? This is one of the reason. If a school is not close to people's home and there is no transport like buses or vans, parents may not be willing to send their girls to school. So if there is no transportation available, then parents are not willing to send their girls to school. Many families are too poor and unable to bear the cost of educating all their children. Boys may get preference in this situation. Many children also leave school because they are discriminated against by their teacher and classmates, just like Om Prakash Valmiki was. We have seen about Om Prakash Valmiki's story, in which he was not allowed to sit in the class. He was ordered to clean the school and sweep the ground and all. So this kind of discrimination even continues in the in some schools of the villages, right? Women's movement. Women and girls now have the right to study and go to school. There are other spheres like legal reform, violence and health, where the situation of women and girls has improved. These challenges have not happened automatically. Women individually and collectively have struggled to bring about these changes. This struggle is known as the women's movement. So women's movement, women have not only women, many people have struggled for it, for the equality. So this struggle is known as women's movement. Individual women and women's organization from different parts of the country are part of the movement. Many men support the women's movement as well. The diversity, passion and efforts of those involved makes it a very vibrant movement. Different strategies have been used to spread awareness, fight discrimination and seek justice. Here are some glimpses of this struggle, right? So women are struggling for equality, and different strategies have been used to spread awareness about the equality and fight discrimination and also to seek justice. So let's see some of the struggles they are facing. Campaigns to fight discrimination and violence against women are an important part of the women's movement. Campaigns have also led to new laws being passed. A law was passed in 2006 to give women who face physical and mental violence within their homes, also called domestic violence, some legal protection. So the law was passed in 2006 against domestic violence, right, like physical and mental violence within their homes. Similarly, efforts made by the women's movement led the Supreme Court to formulate guidelines in 1997 to protect women against sexual harassment at the workplace and within educational institutions. So Supreme Court has formulated guidelines in 1997 to protect the people who work outside their home against sexual harassment, right? So these are the laws passed or guidelines have been formulated. In the 1980s, for example, women's group across the country spoke out against dowry deaths, cases of young brides being murdered by their in-laws or husbands greedy for more dowry. Women's groups spoke out against the failure to bring these cases to justice. They did so by coming onto the streets, approaching the courts, and by sharing information. Eventually, this became a public issue in the newspapers and society, and the dowry laws were changed to punish families who seek dowry. So, in 1980s, the women groups across the country, they fought against these things like dowry deaths and also to bring the laws for this dowry related cases, and new dowry laws were introduced to punish families who seek dowry. Satyarani, an active member of the women's movement, sitting on the steps of the Supreme Court, surrounded by legal files gathered during the course of a long legal battle to seek justice for her daughter who was murdered for dowry. So it is the story of Satyarani. She battled for a long time to seek justice for her daughter. Raising awareness. An important part of the women's movement's work is to raise public awareness on women's rights issues. Their message has been spread through street plays, songs, and public meetings. So this is the women's movement's work, to raise public awareness through street plays, songs, and public meetings. Protesting. The women's movement raises its voice when violations against women take place, or for example when a law or policy acts against their interest. Public rallies and demonstrations are very powerful way of drawing attention to injustice, showing injustice, right? So this is the protesting is the powerful way of drawing attention to injustice. We may have seen rallies or demonstrations, right? Showing solidarity. The women's movement is also about showing solidarity with other women and causes. This is to convey the message that people are there in support of them, right? Every year on 14th August, several thousand people gather at Wagah on the border of India and Pakistan and hold a cultural program. So this happens at the Wagah border. So just remember this date, right? Glossary. What does it mean? Stereotype. When we believe that people belong to a particular groups based on religion, wealth, language, are bound to have certain fixed characteristics or can only do a certain type of work, we create a stereotype. For example, in this chapter we saw how boys and girls are made to take certain subjects not because he or she has an aptitude for it, but because they are either boys or girls. Stereotypes prevent us from looking at people as unique individuals. So stereotype is a thing in which we believe that this certain group of people can do that this kind of work and all. This is a stereotype. Discrimination. When we do not treat people equally or with respect, we are indulging in discrimination. It happens when people or organizations act on their prejudices. Discrimination usually takes place when we treat someone differently or make a distinction, right? Violation. When someone forcefully breaks the law or a rule or openly shows disrespect, we can say that he or she has committed a violation. Sexual harassment. This refers to physical or verbal behavior that is of a sexual nature and against the wishes of a woman. It is not only against the wishes of a woman, it is also against the wishes of a man. If someone physically or verbally act against them. So this is the end of the chapter. Thank you.